The conventional diet gets its fat from oils and animal fats predominantly. And the Nutritarian diet that I recommend, a plant-based diet or that I recommend, gets its fats from nuts and seeds, not oils or animal fats. When you get your fat from nuts and seeds instead of animal fats and oils, the fat calories enter the bloodstream slowly over hours. And it never puts too much fat in the blood at one time because it takes 3 to 4 hours to digest an ounce of nuts or something, not 3 minutes. With oil, it goes from the lips to the hips in like 3 minutes flat. It goes right to the bloodstream. There's nothing stopping it, like pouring right through the bloodstream, the wall of the digestive tract. When you eat nuts and seeds, because the calories are coming in so much more slowly, the body you're not flooding the blood with so many calories, so the body preferentially burns that fat for energy as it comes in. It doesn't have to turn on fat storage hormones and store it. And because it's not going to rev up fat storage, it's not going to shut down fat breakdown. So it's completely different biological effects. I used to say on my PBS show, I used to make the joke, I'd say to the audience, sesame oil or sesame seeds? And they'd say sesame seeds. And I'd say, walnut oil or walnuts or, flax seeds or flaxseed oil, which is healthier, which is different, completely opposite biological effects. And I'd hold up and I'd say motor oil, and I'd just make a joke out of it.
Does the fat content in the nuts and seeds that absorbs more slowly, far more slowly because of the fiber content? Would I be correct in assuming that?
Yes, the type of fibers are sterols and stanols and fibers that bind fat. And in doing so, all the fat in the nut and seed is not absorbed into the bloodstream because some of the fat passes through into the toilet bowl because these fibers that hold fat are like fat magnets, so much so that they pull oxidized LDL, which is the bad actor causing heart attacks, out of the bloodstream. In other words, you have more oxidized LDL in the stool, lowering the worst type of LDL molecule. So nuts and seeds are associated with lower heart attack risks, lower cardiovascular death, and lower risk of irregular heartbeat causing atrial fibrillation and sudden cardiac death. And more recent studies showing that the fat in nuts and seeds, especially from the high ALA containing nuts and seeds, which are walnuts and flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds, high in ALA, omega-3 fatty acid, have a protective effect on stabilizing arrhythmias of the heart, including lowering risk of atrial fibrillation. All compared to a diet too excessively low in fat. So we're saying that nuts and seeds add cardiovascular protection, and the fats from them, even though they're relatively slowly absorbed and burned as energy, still have a beneficial effect on the heart and other body longevity mechanisms. They're almost anti-aging foods.
I want to go back to what it was you were talking about a little bit earlier about how if a person who is used to eating the ultra high calorie diet, you say the majority of us are eating about twice as many calories as we really need, but you don't really feel right until you get that high calorie, high fat snack in you or meal. And it took me right back to the day that I realized how strong of a hold food had on me at 420 pounds, where I had been trying to diet for just 3 days, not even 72 full hours. And my body was just freaking out, especially mentally. And then as soon as I took that first bite of fast food again, it was as if all of that anger and anxiety and even sickness just kind of washed away. And I felt great. But the thing that was so profound in that moment for me, Dr. Fuhrman, was also the realization that, like, oh my God, I'm hooked on fast food the way that a lot of people are hooked on drugs and alcohol. What do you think it's going to take for us as a society to realize that basically every time you are kind of going through the drive-thru, and I am admittedly biased on this, but every time you are going through the drive-thru, you are literally getting your fix? And then when we think about that, it kind of takes the whole idea that a cheat day is even a healthy thing, and it throws that out the window. That's such a foreign concept for so many of us. How are we going to screw our heads on straight here, Doc?
You are 100% correct in the way you're seeing this, because, you might remember that one of my best-selling, million-copy selling books was called Eat to Live, written in 2004. And I had people follow a very strict diet for 6 weeks, but then I gave them authorization or permission to cheat and to And to do it 90% rule, to do this 90% correct and just stay 10%. But over the years and decades since then, so many people have failed or do fail because of the continual cheating or going, having things that aren't healthy. And when you have that history of that addictive relationship with food, you keep lighting the fire under your desires, and it prevents you from resolving your need for those particular addictive substances. And so over the years, I've gotten more strict, not less strict. I'm saying to people, my experience of the last 30 years is that the people who've lost 50 pounds, lost 100 pounds, lost 150 pounds, and kept it off the rest of their life, if you look at the success and what were the factors that led to their success, these were people who, when they jumped in, didn't keep cheating and going back and forth. They stayed on the program strictly, and they felt so good, and the results they received were so incredibly positive that they stayed with it long term. And they don't like the way they feel, and they like the way they think, and they like the way they like the new person they've become enough to continue with this program. That doesn't mean they didn't have a difficult time the first 6 months. That doesn't mean they didn't feel worse when they first started out and gone through withdrawal from and detoxification from and feeling miserable both physically and emotionally the first month that they've done that. I've seen, as you are aware, I have a retreat in San Diego where people come and stay here for 1, 2, or 3 months to lose weight and get well from food addiction. And they could be irritable the first few weeks. They could be upset, and they're giving up this love affair they had with these substances, and they have to give them up, and they're not getting them. And you could see how it ignites the brain, and it's very stressful for them making this decision to give up something that they're so intimate with in their life, and they think their life and their happiness is so dependent on. And but the longer they're away from this substance, that's why people go away to these retreats or health places for a week or 2 or 3 even, and the chance of recidivism is so high. Because like with cocaine rehab, it takes months to get rid of, and you have to be away from these substances for a longer period of time for the brain to get well and to no longer to be so overly attracted to these things. And I'm saying exactly what you're saying, that the people that still kind of cheat, it's like the alcoholic thinking they can go to the bar on the weekend and have alcohol. It makes it more difficult for them, not easier for them. The more they keep their foot in that other world and they don't want to fully give it up, the more it keeps the light written on the fire burning on their desire for those substances, instead of letting it dim out and the ashes just go away. And their taste bud muscle improves, and they lose the desire from foods if they can stay away from them long enough. But we're also talking about here that they have to learn a lot about a different way of seeing the world.
For sure.
They have to change their psychology for sustained wellness. It's not all about food here. It's about the food, it's about the biology and the science, and it's also about having robust emotional health and what it takes to change your outlook on the world to be able to free yourself of addiction, especially food addiction, because food addiction is the more difficult addiction to conquer, more so, even harder than alcohol addiction and drug addiction. There's a lot of reasons for that, but the main reason is you get negative peer pressure, and you receive a lot of criticism, ridicule, and peer from your community for trying to live healthfully, because everybody else is an addict trying to convince you to join them in their addictive, unhealthy behaviors. Whereas with alcohol or cigarettes, people are supporting you and applauding you for coming off your alcohol or your cigarettes or your drugs. But with food addiction, they're criticizing you for coming off, for no longer eating healthy and imbibing in unhealthy and self-destructive substances with them. So it makes it much more difficult, and that's why you need such much robust emotional health.